Hey, welcome everybody. It's episode number 24 of Into the Fire, coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's Jason White and my trusted little buddy, Ronnie Leatherman, coming to you. I cannot believe it's May the 31st, by the way. May the 31st of 2024. I can't believe that it's episode number 24.
That's a lot.
Who would have thought? Huh?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That is a lot. So, Ronnie's been really busy at work, and I don't know, what is this week? Are you going on week 4 now? I think you're going on week 4.
Maybe I thought that was 3, but it may be 4.
Tell us what you've been doing back there in that room.
I've been trying to organize all the cold case files. There's over 300 cases dating back to the late 60s. I don't know, probably 20 plus detectives over the years, probably more than that actually, have had some of those cases, and they were just stored in multiple locations. So basically we had a couple spreadsheets, and I was trying to organize them and then physically trying to find the files related to each of those cases. And I would say I need probably 2 more days next week, and then I'll be done and ready to start digging into each of them a little more. I will say that Jeremy and I have sent off a couple lab requests on some stuff from the 80s. So hopefully that stuff comes back, and we'll be able to dig into that stuff a little more here in the coming weeks. But yeah, it's good to be back, and yeah, good times. But yeah, it was a little disorganized back there, and I'm trying to get it kind of where it makes sense.
Ronnie's actually being modest. It was a lot disorganized. It looked like a hornet's nest back there. And Ronnie has really made an impact already in the very short time that he's been here. So good job. It's looking good. The last week for me, we've been back for a week. We kind of missed last week. I hope everybody enjoyed watching Jackie Muse. That was an episode that Ronnie and I both discussed, and we thought it was a lot of fun, and we really wanted to re-air her. And there's a lot of favorites that we've got, but that's definitely one of those that kind of a lot of people have commented on. We really enjoyed that. So I know Jackie enjoyed watching it again, I'm sure. But so the week before last, I was actually in Rochester, New York, The Rock, and they coined me as I did a podcast with, there I am, the real Tulsa King. By the way, the quotes that you see there, that's not what I said. I didn't say I was the real Tulsa King, but the guys from the Crime Dog podcast, check it out. See it in the upper left. You can watch their episodes on YouTube, and you talk about just a fun time. If you get a chance, check out. It's Johnny and Dave and Jason. The 3 of those guys, they've got something special when it comes to podcasts, and they're able to talk about everything. So, we're still talking about just, warm and fuzzy things here on this show. We can't talk about the reality about what's going on in the world, but we just talk about fun stuff. But anyway, nevertheless, it's really a good podcast. And I hope Ronnie, I don't think Ronnie's checked it out yet, but I'm wearing their hat, a little bit of their gear. So it's really, really cool that they were having me on there.
Have you had any issues with Stallone reaching out to you?
No, I haven't had any.
Fight or anything?
No, but I told him, I said, I'm gonna steal that straight. I'm gonna take that. I think that's cool. We'll put it on my magnet at work. I'm sure I'm gonna get some resistance with that, but I'm hoping that'll end up on one of the magnets. If for the listeners, we put these stupid magnets up that shows us who's up for the next case, and they've got these. Some of them are ridiculous names that they put on these magnets. But I thought for once, I had one that was pretty solid, and I'm going to steal it. But I don't know. I don't know that they'll ever put that up there. Bunch of narcissists up there that we work with. So I don't know that it'll happen. Nevertheless.
Are you not in that category though?
No, heck no, I'm not. But I think
whatever.
But anyway, I mean, maybe everybody that works up there has a touch of it. Thanks for joining us, Laura. For all the others, hopefully people remember that we're on. By the way, we didn't even have to be on here tonight, and actually, technically, the network was going to have the night off for us, but we went ahead and had an episode. Ronnie's probably sitting there thinking, well, why in the heck are we here? But I thought I wanted to be back. I was kind of missing being on the air, so that's why we're here. This next guest is going to be a lot of fun. I have no doubt. By the way, also I was speaking in New York. I did something kind of cool too, and I know Ronnie's done some things like this, and we have both done stuff like this. And I actually made a personal visit to Anthony. And I don't have a picture of him right here. He's on my Facebook page. But Anthony, who is an absolute super fan there in Rochester, and I made a point to his family had reached out to me, and I was able to visit with him and stop by and drop off a couple of cool things. And I basically have made him and ordained him the #1 Rochester fan for the night, and that's Anthony. Just a super good guy, and I guess he writes down our names and stuff. I mean, he's an absolutely obsessed fan, and he writes down the names. When he sees us, he'll check us off, and that's kind of fun. So nevertheless, it was fun. Rochester was a fun place. I was there speaking at the New York Association of Hostage Negotiators. There you go. There was probably 200 to 250 police officers and psychologists and people like that from really most of them were from New York State. A lot of New York State police officers, and there were several from the Canada area in around Lake Lake Ontario, around that vicinity, Toronto, that kind of stuff. So it's cool. Anyway, we'll get right to it. You have anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, let's hear about Doug. This is going to be interesting, I think.
I think it's going to be fascinating. And one of the real reasons that I wanted to bring him on was that, #1, I know him. I met him in New York State. I met him in New York City at a, God, what was that, Ronnie? What did we go to?
It was medical legal death investigations by the New York City Medical Examiner's Office.
Yeah, it was incredible training. It's priceless, and we were very lucky to be there. Doug began his career in law enforcement and training as a crime scene investigator in 1993 with the Gibson County Sheriff's Office in southwestern Indiana. During his time with the Sheriff's Office, Doug received extensive training in the area of crime scene investigation. In 1998, Doug accepted the position of Senior Crime Scene Specialist with the Austin, Texas Police Department, and as a Senior Crime Scene Specialist, Doug worked alongside the major crimes units within the Austin Police Department to include, but not limited to, homicide, robbery, sex crimes, and the cold case unit. It was during this time that Doug also received extensive training and hands-on experience in the area of bloodstain pattern analysis and crime scene investigation and analysis. Having the opportunity to advance his career and return to Indiana, where he grew up, Doug took the position of Chief of Police. See, there's stuff here I didn't even know about this guy. It's pretty amazing. But he took the position of Chief of Police with the Oakland City Police Department in 2002. While serving as Chief of Police, Doug also worked as the Deputy Coroner for the Gibson County Coroner's Office, affording him the opportunity to advance his career in the area of medical legal death investigations. Enjoying teaching and training aspect of crime scene investigation, Doug began sharing his knowledge and experiences with colleagues by presenting training classes and workshops on various forensic topics, both domestically and internationally. In 2004, Doug founded Triad Forensics to provide training, case review, and actual crime scene response services to a number of agencies. In 2007, sorry about that. I have a new monitor that's going off all the time. As a senior criminalist, Doug received extensive training in the area of latent print examination, shooting incident reconstruction, bloodstain pattern analysis, forensic entomology, which is the study of bugs, and crime scene reconstruction. Doug has been qualified as an expert witness in both state and federal courts in the multiple areas in crime scene investigation and analysis. And finally, in 2012, Doug founded the Colorado Forensics Investigators Group, which was a small group of forensic investigators from the Denver metro area that came together to train and provide support for fellow forensic investigators. This group includes investigators from federal, state, and county and municipal levels of government. Let's bring on Doug Young.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Hey, Doug.
How are you?
I'm great. Good. I'm great. How are you guys?
Great.
Well,
You might actually remember for the viewers of this, when we had Ashley Berg come on she's from North Texas area, and she actually joined us. And Ashley Ashley's a superstar. And then when I hear your background, my gosh, Doug, I think you're an OG in the world of crime scene. I'm thinking.
Old guy. That's right. Old guy. Yeah. No,
Yes.
Ashley. I know Ashley. She's a great lady, great criminalist, and amazing. Yeah, she's good people.
All right. So I know that you work for the Thornton Police Department, which is just outside of Denver. And while I went there, I was up there for another. I think I was teaching. I don't remember, but I
Yeah, I
remember
think
you
you were.
reached out. I reached out to you and I said, "Hey, man, I'm in town," and you were kind enough to allow me to come over to your police department. And you specifically were incredibly excited about something called the M-VAC. And you actually showed me kind of a little bit of a demonstration as to how that worked, and were actually volunteered that, if we had a special case or something like that, you'd even test it for us. And that's a machine. Tell us
Absolutely.
first of all, what is what is your job at Thornton Police Department? Just tell me that for starters, and then we can get to what
I'm
an
a senior
M-VAC is.
I'm a senior criminalist. I'm a crime scene guy. I respond to crime scenes. Do the documentation, the analysis, evidence collection, and then we also, once we finish the scene, we take evidence back to the lab. We do lab processing as well, which is where the M-VAC comes in a lot of times.
Do you guys have other, so like here in Tulsa, we have our crime scene people, and then a completely separate group that aren't cops are our lab
Right.
people that do
Yep.
the actual lab work. But you're saying you do both?
Well, yeah. So I'm a civilian, so I'm not an officer, not
Okay.
a sworn officer, but I'm part of the CID division.
Okay.
And so yeah, we do crime scene work, and then we also do some lab work. All of our DNA, firearms, things like that are sent out to the state, to the
Okay.
CBI. But as far as like reconstruction, blood stain, shooting reconstruction, any of those things, we do all of that in house, latent prints as well. So.
Okay.
Now, I never asked you this before you came on. I should have asked you this. I should have asked you, is there anything that's off limits that we can't talk about?
I don't think so. I'll
Okay.
dodge it if there is.
Well, you'll tell me if it is anyway. I'm sure. The one thing that I was going to ask you is that, have you done anything, or have you? I'm sure you're a part of it. If you're a forensic team in the state of Colorado, I'm sure you guys have discussed the Jean-Benet Ramsey case.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
is that something? Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into depth in detail on it. I was just curious if you guys have actually talked about that. I'm sure that things are still. It's not a case that's sitting on the shelf gathering dust. They're still looking at things, I would assume.
They absolutely are. I haven't heard anything from it. That was Boulder Police Department, and I haven't heard anything from Boulder for a while on the case. But I know they're constantly, looking at any leads that come in or any new forensic technologies that they might be able to use to do any more analysis. But yeah, it's definitely one of those cases that's hanging out there that I wish we could help solve, or they could solve, obviously.
Yeah. With the advances in forensics, the M-VAC, that's something that I don't even know. And you might be able to answer this question. I don't even think that anybody in the state of Oklahoma actually has an M-VAC. I could be wrong. If there is one, I'm not aware of it. So can you tell us what an M-VAC actually is?
Yeah, and the M-VAC is actually it's a DNA wet vac. The system was designed by Mr. Bradley, Dr. Bradley, back in the early '90s, and what it was designed for was to test food for bacteria, and then so as the years went on, his son Jared Bradley, who's now owns the company, had a friend with the FBI, and they said, this would be a great instrument, great piece of equipment to use for extracting DNA, small amounts of DNA from various clothing, cartridge cases, things like that. And so basically, what it is it is has a up there's a picture of it. So you'll see the large unit on the left of that unit. There is a pressurized fluid. It's sterile fluid, and as the fluid in the lady's holding the wand there. So the fluid is sprayed out of the head of that wand, but at the same time, it's being vacuumed back up or sucked back up, and so it's goes into a container, and then that container is then poured through a filter. So essentially, your DNA is in the fluid, and then as it goes through the filter, the DNA is caught, and the fluid continues through. Um, and we've used it in a number of cases. We've probably used it actually more helping other agencies who have cold cases, or they have evidence with touch DNA, than we have our own. But we've had some really good success with it, and especially again with touch DNA. If you have a blood stain on something, you're just going to swab it like you normally would. This is particularly for those small amounts of trace DNA.
What I'm guessing then the filter is the thing that's going to get tested for the DNA, and then the liquid is obviously disposed of because you can't have any cross contamination. So what's kind of the upkeep on that thing because I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff you have to change out every time. And
it's actually pretty simple. There's not a lot of upkeep. You have the fluid that you're changing out, but the fluid lasts actually quite some time. The hoses, obviously, you change those out, and then you have the sterile containers, which the fluid is vacuumed up into, and then the filters. So all of that, we keep the filters separate, and then the other supplies. So there's really not a lot of upkeep, and it's a great, like I said, a great piece of equipment that we use fairly often anymore. With DNA being so sensitive now, we're getting really good results with this M-VAC.
Go ahead. You're muted, Jason. Hey, I was going to ask what type of testing was done to make sure that the stuff was legit on that? The kind of the history of when they were making it and getting in touch with the FBI? Because I was assigned to the FBI for a while, and they're pretty picky on stuff. So I'm sure they want all the testing done. So do you know much about that? And if so, what was that about?
Yeah, so they M-VAC actually did Sorensen Forensics did a lot of validation testing and testing, and then also there's some papers out there from the FBI where FBI did actually test it, and one of the things was the test that they did was conventional swabbing versus the M-VAC, and the M-VAC was shown to collect more DNA than just the conventional swabbing.
And one other thing that I guess, Jason, sorry, the thing that we've dealt with a lot that has been an issue for us as far as DNA is a mixture. If me and Jason both handled the same thing, and then we get something back from our lab that says it's a mixture of two people and so can't be excluded, how does the M-VAC deal with that?
Yeah, so one of the things that's a big thing the DNA analysts don't really like, because they're analyzing this filter, and you're absolutely right. If it's just a little bit of DNA, you may have 6 mixtures in there that they have to separate out. So they get a little bit frustrated with us sometimes on that. But I'm a firm believer in I'd rather have the evidence. And I know nothing about separating out mixtures. I know how to get it to them, right?
Yeah.
But they work with us, and we work through it. So, but yeah, mixtures are an issue with it because it collects so much DNA.
One of the cases that I remember you talking to me about when I was up there in Colorado, you were talking to me about, and I hope you remember this case specifically, but you were talking about the success that you had from some items that were submerged in water. Does that sound right? Yeah. Tell me
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that case, because that's just fascinating to me. that you were able to get something from something that was literally submerged in water.
Yeah, it was a stabbing case that we had, and the suspect had thrown the knife in the river. So it's kind of interesting how we actually found it. We actually got a knife just like the one that he used, and actually drove across the bridge, threw it over where one of the other suspects had said this is where he threw it. And when the divers went in the water, we were within inches of where the actual knife was. So we pulled the knife out, and we're like, oh man, there's no way we're going to get anything off of this thing. And so, but you know, as you open the knife, that hinge area, there was enough protection, I guess, in that area that we had a little bit of blood in there, and we were able to soak that knife, and get that DNA from that area.
That's pretty fascinating to me.
It's
It
amazing.
is crazy to me, actually. It really is. And so the advances in DNA just in the last couple of years, I'm sure you could probably speak better on this. It's just exponentially gone crazy, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
As far as just the sensitivity of it and so forth. So where are we at? Like, and I know you're not a lab guy, but as far as mixtures, you brought up mixtures, and that's something that it's just like we're almost like doing this with the lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because our lab won't do mixtures, and I know
Right.
that there are labs out there. Sorensen's probably one of them because they're like a heavy hitter out there in the world. But are we getting to a place where that's going to be easier? Do you know that if they're making progress in that area, if you can even speak to that?
You know, I don't know for sure on that. Like you said, I'm not a DNA person, but I do know that in some of the recent cases that we've gotten, now I think probably it has to do with the quantity of mixtures that you have. You know, the more mixtures, the harder it's going to be to separate those out. But we've had pretty good luck in our cases with 2-3 mixtures where they're separating those mixtures out, that DNA out. So, and again, I'm not sure how, you know, they do that or anything like that, but we're on the receiving end, obviously, of those results. And so yeah, we've been pretty fortunate.
As my understanding, and I'm not a lab guy either, but if they have a reference sample, I think it's a lot easier for them because they can, and I'm really simplifying this, if they know this DNA is mine, they can subtract all that stuff from that mixture, and then it makes it a lot easier for them, I think, than just, there's a bunch of stuff mixed together here. So
right. Yeah, that's exactly right, Ronnie. It you know, if they have, you know, the three of us and it's a mixture, but they have what they call a buccal swab, so the swab from the inside of the cheek, you know, they can pull those out. And so I think, you know, the quantity of DNA is important, right? So who's got the most DNA in that mixture? That's one of those things. And so, but that's where you guys come in, right? That you do your magic and figure those types of things out. So,
and then another thing that I've been learning coming back and doing this cold case stuff is our lab tests DNA in this manner, but if you go to like the genetic genealogy stuff, there's a whole other part of the DNA that's getting tested with all the different markers, for lack of better words, that they can test. And that's another thing that we're hoping our lab can get into is the type of DNA where they can check a ton of different markers rather than just a small amount. So, and that's obviously dependent on money and training and personnel and all that. But I think that's another big thing that people in the general public should maybe be aware of. That's, if you're seeing TV and movies that are like, oh, well, they got all this DNA. It depends what type of testing the lab can do on the type of results they can get.
Right. And that's the thing too, right? Like, so we have cases, and I'm sure y'all too do as well, but you know, you have DNA out there that we have no idea who it is, you know, and I like to to think about, well, okay, and then we can get into the whole, court and how attorneys argue that out and different things. But yeah, that DNA that's out there that may be part of that mixture, we have no idea who that is. I mean, we have cases obviously sitting in CODIS that are just sitting there, right? And that no one is, it's not matching anyone, so to speak.
Right.
So,
that brings up a good point that I've thought about for years. And I know Ronnie and I have probably talked about this, but I've always wished that we could, you get a suicide or you get people that have, it's basically an unattended death. I just don't really see the big harm in getting a swab from them and throwing them in there. God only knows how many cases would hit off of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
As
well,
opposed to,
and you bring up a good point, Jason, because there's a thing called rapid DNA now. I don't know if you guys have
well, I'm
heard
glad you
about
bring that up, because we're mandated in the state of Oklahoma by 2027, we're going to have rapid DNA. So tell us what that, I really want to know what in the heck it really is, because when I heard about it, it was hard. I was like, seriously? So
Yeah,
explain what that is exactly. Because here in Oklahoma, we're going to be doing that.
Yeah, no, and it's and I think we've been working on it here in Colorado as well. There's a lot of Ronnie mentioned the FBI and validations and things like that, and that's kind of what's going on right now. But rapid DNA will be DNA or a system that we'll be able to use where we'll get in 90 minutes. We'll get a profile in 90 minutes. So the great thing about that is, the scenario that you brought up, Jason, was you have a suicide, and let's take a blood swab or a couple of blood swabs and put it in rapid. And what the great thing I think too is you'll be able to build your own database. So Thornton will be able to build our own database. You'll be able to build your database, but we'll also be able eventually to search CODIS directly from rapid. And that's incredible. I think of it's kind of like a fingerprint hit in APHIS, right? It's the same. It's kind of that presumptive lead that you might have early on, which is huge at the beginning or any point in a case. That nugget of information that you need. So
I had no idea you could actually. You're going to have. We will have the capability to actually search that in CODIS. That's awesome. So problem solved, Ronnie. All of our thinking has came to fruition.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's going to be probably legal hurdles that come along the way of, hey, why? Because I know there's certain rules that they have to go by with CODIS. You can't just throw anybody and everybody in there. So that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because I know, like you said, Jason, you and I have talked about it, but if you have this gangster, this drug dealer, or whoever that you've just heard year after year that this guy's always involved in some type of craziness, but nobody was ever willing to testify, or people didn't show up to court even when they said they would, and then that they were involved in some other stuff, that would be able to clear up a bunch of cases, like you were saying, Jason. That's going to be interesting over the next few years to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it'll, like you say, I think you'll be able to clear a lot of cases in one swoop, basically, potentially. And so I'm excited too for the cold case aspect of that. We're like you. We have cases sitting on the shelf that are like, man, what are we doing with this? And so we've run M-VAC on them. We've done things that we could do, but man, to be able to get into the rapid system, that'd be great.
Yeah. Sounds like you got a bear up there.
This dog. She's
So all right. Let's say we've got the rapid DNA scanner. I'm just thinking out. I'm thinking like we've got a homicide. We've got a blood trail in the living room. You can go ahead and scan that. And theoretically, could you go ahead and scan the guy that's sitting in the interview room? And
100%. You got a suspect. You got blood.
Oh, I love it.
In 90 minutes, is it this guy or is it not this guy? This is huge, man. I'm telling you, this is a huge thing. Yeah, huge.
I'm hoping that we won't even have to think anymore. That's really the goal that we're going for.
Just let the robots do it all, huh?
Say
We
that
just need
green
him to
coffee,
type-
right? It's done.
We just need him to come up with a development on how to write our reports for us. And then if
That's
that can
right.
happen, then we're in great shape.
But along that right there, the issue still is going to be, do you get consent from that guy? Is state law written away where you got to get that? You got to go get a search warrant to get his DNA to put in there. If you have that, that's where I think it's going to be interesting, and all the attorneys and judges are going to get involved. And I think it's a great thing, but I'm just, like I've said, and I'll quit saying it. It's going to be interesting to see how it just plays out, because it's going to be huge.
Quit
Well,
being
that's
a
one of the
negative Ned.
things.
Be a positive Pat, Ronnie.
That's one of the things that they're doing right now, right? See, the FBI is studying, what is it going to take from a rapid instrument? So I think they're looking at, probably a lot of the companies that are developing this are looking at the chemicals that they use to, extract this DNA and whatnot. And so what's FBI going to allow? And you're right. I think there's going to be legal challenges, like with everything. But I think, the hurdle, it'll be worth jumping those hurdles for the results we're going to get from it. So
And I think the science behind it, just talking, like I said, Jeremy and I had to go, the guy that I'm working with now in cold case, we were over at our lab. The science behind all this stuff is legit. I mean, that's been proven tons and tons of times. The issue is going to be the legal hurdles. So
yeah. And I know they're using it now, like, in disasters and that type of thing, where they can identify really quickly victims and things like that. So, but yeah, I think it's, when you take M-VAC and you put that with, rapid DNA, it's incredible. We're gonna be making some progress, I think.
And I guess one last thing here, Jason, as far as the M-VAC, so with that filter, how are they going to get those results back that quick? I guess just lab people are going to be on board, or can you use the filter from the M-VAC straight to the rapid device? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. So we'll be able, you could do swabs, or that filter, is taken out of the housing.
Right.
And typically what our lab does is they cut it, they cut it in half. So half for CVI and then half for possible defense testing if defense chooses to do that. But I think we would just be able to do that as well, just cut a portion of the filter. And the rapid instrument, the cartridges that you use, it's very simple. You put the swab in, or you put this whatever it is in the chemical, and it goes right in the instrument. And then in 90 minutes you got some results. And
that's unreal. That really is unreal.
The other thing though is that you may get mixtures too in rapid. That's the other part that we haven't discussed, but and that's where you're going to need a what we call a bench DNA person, that's working actually on the bench and doing the DNA. So they'll have to discern what that mixture is.
I want to mention one thing real quick, is that so you developed, or you basically founded Triad Forensics. And in your company, and when I read in your website, and there's the website, and anybody's feel free to look into that, especially law enforcement. And basically you guys will evaluate cases both for the prosecution and for the defense. And what else will you do? What's everything you can do for people via that company?
We do training. So I'm doing training for some of the companies out there, doing contract training for them. We do mostly case review, but we can do processing. We can do fingerprint processing. We can do one of the things that I'm really working on right now is being able to put some kits together. So let's say that you're a deputy sheriff or a police officer in a rural department. You would be able to call us and say, hey, we have this big crime scene, we don't know what to do, and to be able to actually respond out to do that. So some of the folks that I have that work alongside me. We've come up with that, and it's unique to, I think, to you know, forensic companies. And we do trial prep. So, you know, going through, I think a lot of times, you guys that, you know, the detectives and everyone, they're so focused. You know, they have this whole case and they're trying to focus on everything in the case. And sometimes just having an independent person come in and go, "Hey, what about this? What about this?" You know, I'm working a cold case now where exactly that. You know, there's things in those crime scene photos that I see from a different perspective than what you all may see. And you know, it's all about putting all this information together and what does it mean? You know, so things within the crime scene, you know, is the light switch off or is it on, or is it, you know,
Mhm.
how does that fit into the whole case? And that's kind of what I like. That's kind of my thing. I'm a nerd, I guess, but
No, I'm
it's
glad there's
great.
people like you out there. Really.
It's great that you brought that up. The again, a meeting that I was in a couple weeks ago with this genetic genealogy stuff, that they brought up that very thing of an outsider kind of looking at it, and they've said, hey, when we look at the crime scene pictures, we may see something, and especially if this M-VAC's around, that they would say, hey, did you guys collect that or did you collect that? Because if not, that's something you can test that maybe that you hadn't thought of. So
right.
it's interesting hearing this from different people in different areas of expertise in this whole forensic world. So
Right.
that was
Well,
cool.
you know, some of the things that we've done, car keys. You got car keys, right? Uh, I had a case where somebody, they had a medallion, some jewelry ripped off, and it was laying at the crime scene. And so we M-VAC'd it, and I mean, great DNA,
Oh,
great
yeah.
DNA from it. Ligatures are a big one. Yeah, I helped an agency with a case from 1975, and what was interesting about the case, we weren't able to do the M-VAC, but when we opened the evidence, like it hadn't been opened.
Oh,
No
yeah.
one had looked at this evidence, and as we're going through it, you know, one of the things you do a pre-screening and look at it and whatnot, and then we found 2 human hairs with roots
Oh, nice.
just from looking at the evidence. So we weren't able to M-VAC it because it was so dry and, you know, desiccated. But those hairs, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
by
let me throw.
looking. Go ahead.
I'm gonna throw an item at you. You know, like an axe.
Yeah.
You know, an axe handle that's
Hmm.
been sitting, that's been maybe swabbed multiple times before by the lab, and then they
Yep.
found nothing. So I
So
want you to visualize this, Doug.
yeah.
So, so do you think? And I'm just throwing something out at random. Do you think that there's with the M-VAC, there's still real possibilities? I
I
know
absolutely do.
you wouldn't. Okay, that's what I love to hear.
I'm a firm believer in the M-VAC. And the way we got our M-VAC was we had a cold case where the evidence had gone to the lab. It had gone to the lab multiple times. Um, I was in Utah. I was at a conference, and so I was out there, and I talked to the owner, and I said, "Hey, we got this case, and man, there's got to be something on there. You know, the stress is ripped, and it's like we M-VAC'd it, we sent the filter, and we got a full male profile that we had not gotten before. Um, and so, you know, my deputy chief at the time was like, "We're getting one of those things. That is amazing."
Yeah,
So that's how we ended up getting ours. But yeah, I mean, you think about the grain of the wood, you know, and those epithelial cells are sloughing off. They may get down in the grain where you're swabbing the surface, but
mhm.
you're not getting actually down into the grain of the wood. And so, I absolutely
Yeah.
do. I think
I've got
it'd
like
be
16
beneficial.
cases. I've got like 16 cases going through my head right now that are sitting back in that room that you're sitting in, Ronnie.
I
And
have like probably 300 going through my head.
yeah, well, yeah, true. But I've got like 16
No,
on
I
the
know.
top tier, man. You know what I mean? And all right, I'll give you another example. I hate to be, I don't really hate this because I love this because I've got another case from many, many years ago where they did the vacuum where they vacuumed fibers. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
even know
yeah.
what they called it. What was the
Right.
name of that? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It was,
I
you
don't. It was
know,
like a vacuum, and they basically
they,
vacuumed the headrest and the seat, and then they
yeah,
get all these trace stuff.
you,
But
yeah,
so I
yeah,
asked the lab years ago, and this is one of my first cases. It was actually in the first year that I was there, and I said, "Well, what can we do with that?" And they're like, "I don't know." But that's, and I'm not kidding you. And that's basically from the filter of that vacuum, those whatever the particles that came out of that.
right.
I'm sitting here thinking in my brain, I would think that'd be really difficult with an M-VAC because we're talking about like who knows what, just like
Yeah.
I don't know what. I mean, I don't even know how I
I don't
guess
know how you
you
would,
M-VAC the filter, I guess maybe
yeah,
or something like
I
that.
don't know how you would do the trace thing.
And that's a
But
tough one because you don't know exactly what we've got to work with here. But we did have car keys and we had things like that. So I mean,
beautiful.
I'm sitting
Yeah,
there
I
visualizing
think
this and
perfect. And the car keys, we'd soak them. We would soak the car keys, agitate the solution, and then go, pour through the filter. And you think about, and I'm willing to try anything. I'm that kind of guy, right? Like I let my imagination run wild when we're talking about this thing because, you think about we've had cases where the guy or gal's pocket is turned inside out. Well,
yeah, a lot of those.
what was yeah, so you think about that. Well, how'd that happen? Was it I don't think it was the victim, so they robbed this person uh after the homicide or the assault or whatever, and we've gotten DNA from that where
Yeah.
they've reached in and pulled the pocket out.
Yeah. I can't
So
think of how many cases we've gotten nothing. And you're like, what? How the
yeah,
heck could we have nothing here? When clearly, I mean, the killer didn't have gloves on when he did this. And
right.
so this is a game changer. We've got to
Yeah.
get this. And you said that the cost of this is roughly
It's about
50,000.
50. Yeah, I looked it up before we came on the show. It's about 50. And then of course you have supplies, but that's ongoing costs
Right.
um, that that we build in, obviously. But yeah, and I actually before we came on, I know the owner, Jared Bradley, and I talked to him. I'm like, hey, you're good with me talking about the M-VAC, right, on the show? And he's like, absolutely. You and I have known each other long enough. You go on there and say what you
But
think. So
does he have
uh,
a clearance section or anything like that?
you know,
Hey, when
I don't,
we say $50,000, honestly, for the listeners, $50,000 in the world of
oh,
forensics or the world of policing is nothing.
nothing.
It's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
That's exactly
So,
right.
because
You're
a Pharaoh,
exactly
I
right.
think originally a Pharaoh would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000.
Yeah,
The first ones, and now they're down to, from what I've heard, they're down to like 40 or maybe 30 or $40,000. I may be
yeah.
off a little bit on that, but so that's nothing when it comes to this kind of equipment. So
What's the supply though? Like each filter, how much are they looking at for each filter? Do you know
I don't
roughly?
know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But you just order them through the company, I assume, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
everything just comes through them, the solution and everything, and it's just. I mean, in a department the size of Tulsa, you could use this on tons of cases. So
Oh, yeah.
that's
I mean,
you're obviously going to be concerned about of what there's going to be a policy of you can use it on this, or this, and so
right.
that's
And that's the thing, right? Like, so we're talking homicide, which I love. I love talking homicide.
me too.
But you could use it on like really any case, sex assaults, you could robberies. It's portable, so it has a cart that you could take it out to a scene if you absolutely needed to. I know some agencies there's a number of agencies across the country that have them. They use them on vehicles, like
yeah.
like you were saying, Jason, trunks. There was a body or whatever in a trunk, or headliners, that kind of stuff. I mean, you could really use it on. Just let your imagination kind of go.
Have you ever used one portably? Have you ever taken it out to a scene?
I've never taken it to a scene. I've taken it to a couple conferences to
Okay.
demonstrate it, but yeah, it's not, it it's fairly big, but it travels easy. It's not
Okay.
it's not that hard.
All right, I've got another one for you, just real quick. So I years and years ago, I had a case where I ended up super gluing the body. Okay.
Hmm.
And you remember when I don't know if you were with me in New York when we learned about, basically, you probably already knew how to do it, but fingerprinting the skin of
Yeah.
somebody. So my
Yeah.
question is like, let's say hypothetically speaking, you have a body there is using the M-VAC on the person's neck if you think that they were strangled to death, or on a shaken baby type
Hmm.
situation where you could literally M-VAC the skin of the
Hmm.
torso. Now, are you I would assume you're automatically going to have a mixture, the victim
Right. Right.
and then
Right.
the possible perpetrator. So that's
Yeah.
something. Have you heard of any cases where they've done that?
I have not, but I do know that M-VAC has so that uh, that head where the water comes out and it vacuums it back up. They have a special one of those for. So yeah, the part there you'll see that she's holding. Um, there's a little switch there, and so if you flip that switch forward, then the water comes out and the vacuum starts. And so she's doing this brick, which if you think about it, what surfaces these epithelial cells are coming off, your hands, they're sloughing off all the time. So they do have a special one of those wands or heads, whatever you want to call it, for skin. It's specifically for the skin and getting and trying to get the DNA from the skin,
Wow.
from the body. Yep.
So in a case where if a thing's just been swabbed, I can see you're not going to have issues. What about in Jason's scenario where the body's been super glued or a car has been super glued, and then do you think that stuff is going to affect it, or?
That's a great question. I would say, just off the top of my head, I would say yes. I mean, obviously, because the super glue is adhering to kind of putting a protective shell over it. So I don't know. That's a really good question. I haven't had a case like that. And I think that's one of those investigative things that you have to think about, right? As the person collecting, are we going to super glue for latents? I would probably collect DNA before. I would probably M-VAC before and then super glue. So, what's the sequence that we're going to do that in is one thing. But I would think if you had super glue on a surface and then you're M-VACing, that would be difficult.
I really think that within 5 years, this is just going to be commonplace and just going to be, as Jason likes to say, just a game changer in all types of investigations.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think M-VAC now is a game changer. I think maybe an analytical side of it, right? That, like I said, the labs don't really like them because they have to do all this stuff, and it's just kind of a pain, and then the mixtures. But yeah, I mean, I think it's for us as crime scene and obtaining that evidence, it's great. And then when we're going to throw in rapid DNA that we're all eventually going to have, yeah, I agree with you, Ronnie. In 5 years, it's going to be a new ball game.
Yeah, I think everybody needs one. Honestly, this is one of those things, Doug. How long has this thing existed? I mean, this thing has been around probably for coming up on 10 years, right? Maybe at least 5.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
And so here we are in
the initial M-VAC was in the early 90s, and that was the food thing that we talked about, and testing for bacteria on food. And so 2000s, mid 2000s, then Jared said, well, let's try it with DNA. So yeah, it's been around at least 10 years.
And so my point is, when I say that, is why in the world, and I'm going out on a limb here and saying that Oklahoma does not have one. I know that OSBI does not have one because I've had discussions with them about it. And so therefore I know that most of the departments throughout this state, which are smaller departments, absolutely do not have one. I'm actually impressed to no end that Thornton Police Department has one. That's awesome. Does Denver or some of the bigger departments here in the state?
Denver
yeah,
doesn't.
so I think it's
one of the Arapahoe County, I believe, has one. There may be 3 in the state of Colorado. The last I knew. So
I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that why do we not have one of these? I mean, really, and we need to get one, and we're going to get one because Ronnie and I are going to be on the case, and we're not going to let it go until we get one. Honestly, I mean, seriously, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
We're already mentioning it a lot. We've been mentioning it, and we're working towards that. And I think we could probably do it. What did you say about the clearance section? Because I cut you off. Did he say? Did the owner say? Did the owner say he had a clearance section?
Return.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, I don't work for him, so I don't want to say anything on that. But you know, give Jared a call. He's a great guy. Like he's amazing to work with. I just saw him posting some stuff on social media. He's at CrimeCon this week, I think in Nashville, and so he said, "Come on by the booth if anybody's here." So he's amazing, and you know, any questions that you have about it, he's happy to work for. He'll come out and train you on it and stuff like that once you get it. But you know, seriously, guys, if you have a case that you want something done on with M-VAC, let me know. You know, have M-VAC will travel.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a couple of them that come to mind right off the top of my head that I think it would be fascinating just as a little trial, just to try it. And I have no doubt in my mind, based on the high profile nature of these cases, that I think that we would be able to convince a lot of people as to the value of it. So no doubt. I just, golly, there's really not a downside to it. I just don't see the downside in any way, shape, or form. I mean, $50,000 when you consider the amount of overtime that takes place on these cases, you know, just the constant working and hitting your head up against the wall. So I don't know, but anything else, Ronnie?
I was a couple things. One, you need to print off something and put it behind your desk so it can get on First 48 and they can see it, and maybe you can get a discount that way. But
there you go.
On a more serious topic, so there's 3, I think you said, in Colorado. How many do you know of nationwide?
You know, I don't know how many there are nationwide. I wouldn't even want to guess. I know, like, we got ours. We were one of the early ones. We got ours in 2015, I think, 2014. But and Jared has worked super hard in getting it out there and promoting and, you know, demonstrating and all that. I know that the number of agencies that have it now, it has grown tremendously from when we got ours. You know, Florida has a couple of them. I know several agencies there. They're spread all over the country.
Yeah, I'm just surprised they don't have. This isn't like standard equipment in a forensic laboratory, really. Right. They you know, you put in a lab request for DNA on this article of clothing that they just don't. Okay, well, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna try this method, and I just fascinating to me that it's not there. But we're gonna work towards it here in Tulsa because we're trendsetters, and we're gonna be number one, and that's what we're gonna do in the state of Oklahoma. We're gonna try to get it, and excellent. I have no doubt.
If I can help you guys anyway, let me know. If I can help
I know,
you.
and you will. We're coming up to the end of today, and really, 54 minutes goes by in a blink of an eye. Ronnie, do you have a last comment? Anything else?
Doug, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm interested to see how this plays out. But thanks for being here.
Me guys, too. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being invited on and getting to share, you know, experiences and just come on and have fun with you guys. It's great. And you're right, Jason. The time went so fast.
It did. I think that I say this a lot to the other guests and so forth, but in reality, I think with you, we may need to come on here and talk about a success story or something like that. That based on after this and in further discussions about forensics, and you're the guy. I want to thank everybody for joining us once again. We have our regulars that are on here. My gosh. And Ronnie and I both noticed that. And it means the world. And I will tell you this, Doug, there's cops that actually watch this from California to North Carolina up to New York. I know that they're out there because I talk to them whenever I go out, and I teach like you do. I go all over the place. So we do appreciate it, and they actually appreciate the fact. I have no doubt in my mind that they've learned something, because I'm looking at myself in this TV screen, and I actually look smarter than I did when we started. So I know
what
that
it's all about, guys.
That's right. That's right. Next week,
and learning.
That's right. If anybody wants to reach out to him, feel free to reach out to him at Triad Forensics. And I think that's fantastic. I'm going to look more into that, and we're going to look at see what kind of stuff that you have with trial prep and all this, that, and the other. I think that's exciting. Next week, we've got Dr. Ross Miller. He's like a real life Quincy, MD, and he's a forensic pathologist. How cool is that? We're going to talk about just the autopsies and stuff. Like, my gosh, how awesome is that? Anyway, thank you all very much. We got to get off here. Amanda's going to get really mad. Thank you all for being here. Take us out, Amanda. Thanks for being here.